You know, when a car engine starts making that that terrible grinding sound, it's usually pretty obvious what's wrong.
Oh, for sure.
Like a belt snapped, or the oil is completely gone. You pop the hood, you see the broken, jagged part, and you just point at it and say, well, there it is. There's the problem.
Right. It's mechanical. It's binary, you know. It is either functioning as intended or it is visibly broken. And the diagnosis is, well, it's straightforward.
Yeah, and in a weird way, that visible breakdown is very comforting. We like things to be easily categorized so we can just, I don't know, swap out the part, fix the machine, and get back on the road.
Exactly.
But then you look at human ambition. You look at that pervasive, heavy feeling of being completely stalled out in life, and suddenly there's no smoke pouring out of the engine.
No check engine light.
Right.
Yeah.
There's no blinking light on your dashboard. On the surface, everything might actually look perfectly fine to everyone else. But beneath that surface, you know you aren't moving forward. And unpacking that silent, invisible stall is our entire mission today in this deep dive.
And it is a notoriously difficult condition to diagnose. I mean, we often misinterpret the symptoms of a stalled life precisely because the exterior looks so remarkably peaceful. But the material we are examining today, it actually argues that this peaceful exterior is the root of the disease.
Yeah, so today we are diving into excerpts from a text called The Manifeste de Discipline et Motivation. And I need to set expectations right out of the gate here. This is not a gentle, pat-on-the-back self-help guide.
Definitely.
It doesn't tell you that you're perfect just the way you are.
No. The author uses highly charged, almost confrontational archetypes to make their point. They frequently categorize behaviors by labeling people as dangerous men versus boys.
Which is pretty intense.
Very. And our goal today isn't to debate or judge the intensity of that specific rhetoric, but rather to extract the fascinating psychological framework hiding beneath those words. Because stripped of its aggressive vocabulary, the manifesto presents a universally compelling argument about the mechanics of reclaiming control over your own life.
Okay, let's unpack this. Before the text offers any actual solutions, it delivers a really jarring diagnosis of why you, or anyone listening, might feel utterly stuck. The manifesto opens with this massive, counterintuitive claim. It says, you are not stuck, you are just comfortable.
That's a huge shift in perspective.
It really is. And then it follows up with the real punch, saying, comfort is actively killing the man you could become.
What's fascinating here is how the author completely flips the script on modern conveniences. Because, you know, in our current society, comfort is framed as the ultimate goal.
Right, it's the finish line.
Exactly. It is the reward for existing. You work hard so you can sink into the couch, order food directly to your door, and endlessly consume entertainment. But this manifesto refuses to view comfort as a luxury. Instead, it frames comfort as a dangerous, silent trap.
A trap that we just willingly walk into.
Yes. It argues that we are systematically avoiding the very friction required for growth by constantly chasing what it calls easy dopamine.
I was actually looking at this easy dopamine concept through a nutritional lens, and I think it functions exactly like junk food.
Oh, that's a good comparison.
Like, imagine you are legitimately starving. Your body needs a highly nutritious, massive, home-cooked meal. You need protein, complex carbs, real structural fuel.
Right.
But cooking that meal requires heat, time, and physical effort. So instead, you just start snacking on cheap, sugary junk food from the pantry.
Which instantly spikes your blood sugar and hits the pleasure centers in the brain, requiring zero effort.
But that's the trap. It temporarily numbs the hunger. For about 20 minutes, you feel satiated. But that junk food provides absolutely zero structural fuel for the body. You haven't actually nourished yourself. You've just chemically tricked your brain into thinking you did.
And you end up weaker.
Exponentially weaker in the long run. The text argues that we're doing this exact same thing with our ambitions. We genuinely desire the real meal. Like, we want respect, we want financial stability, we want physical strength, but instead of doing the hard work to get those things, we satiate that hunger with the junk food of mindless scrolling, video games, and easy distractions.
And from a neurological standpoint, that is exactly what is happening. Easy dopamine hijacks your brain's reward circuitry. Your brain evolved to reward you with dopamine when you accomplish something difficult that aided your survival.
Like hunting or building a shelter.
Exactly. But now, you can trigger that exact same chemical reward by swiping a screen. So the brain thinks it has achieved something massive, and it downregulates your drive to pursue actual difficult goals.
Wow.
And the antidote the text prescribes for this neurological hijacking is the principle of radical responsibility. It bluntly states, at some point, you have to stop blaming your past, your situation, or other people.
That is a tough pill to swallow. Because victimhood is its own bizarre form of comfort, isn't it?
It absolutely is.
If it's someone else's fault, you don't have to do the work to fix it. But the text argues that the moment you accept total responsibility, your entire reality shifts. Because by accepting that your stalled life is entirely your fault, you inherently accept that fixing it is entirely within your control. Like, no one is coming to save you.
And if we accept that comfort and easy dopamine are the disease, we naturally have to evaluate the cure. And this is where the manifesto makes its most controversial pivot.
Oh, yeah. This part is wild.
It argues that the thing most people seek to cure, their stalled life, which is motivation, is actually a fake cure.
The manifesto completely dismantles the idea of motivation, which is crazy because we are so culturally conditioned to wait for it. I just need to find my motivation today, or, I'll start when I feel motivated.
Right, waiting for the muse.
Yeah. But the text violently rejects that concept. It labels motivation as fundamentally weak because it is inherently unreliable.
Because motivation is simply an emotional state. And emotional states are notoriously volatile. I mean, they are dictated by how many hours of sleep you got, your blood sugar levels, the weather outside, or just a random stressful email you received.
So true.
Relying on an emotional state to achieve a lifelong ambition is like trying to sail across the ocean by waiting for a random, unpredictable gust of wind. Most days, you'll just sit in the water, doing absolutely nothing.
The alternative presented is absolute discipline. The text argues that the archetype of the dangerous man is someone who acts when they feel tired. They act when they are stressed. They literally do not negotiate with their feelings.
Just execute.
Right. But I have to push back on this a little bit because this sounds like a fast track to a breakdown. I mean, modern psychology and, frankly, basic human biology tells us that if something feels constantly grueling, if you are perpetually exhausted and grinding your gears, it's a giant red flag. It is your body warning you about impending burnout. So how do we reconcile the very real medical danger of burnout with the manifesto's incredibly strict rule that if it feels hard, you are doing it right?
That is the essential point of friction in this entire philosophy. We have to differentiate between destructive pain and constructive friction.
Okay, unpack that for me.
Well, right now, the modern human brain's alarm system is overly sensitive. Because we live in such a comfortable environment, our amygdala often sounds the alarm at the slightest hint of psychological effort. The text isn't advocating for working yourself into a hospital bed. It is arguing that your internal alarm system is broken and needs recalibration.
Oh, I see. So it's similar to the concept of exposure therapy in cognitive behavioral psychology.
Yes, exactly.
Like when someone has an irrational phobia, a therapist doesn't tell them to avoid the trigger. They slowly, consistently expose them to it. And every time the patient pushes through the psychological friction without dying, they biologically desensitize their brain's panic response.
That is a highly accurate comparison. It's essentially exposure therapy for your ambitions. When the text uses the word dangerous, it is not talking about being a physical threat to society.
Right.
Becoming dangerous in this context means becoming an individual whose actions are entirely decoupled from their fleeting emotional states. You feel the panic, you feel the exhaustion, you recognize that it's just a feeling, and you execute the task anyway. The friction you feel isn't the machine breaking down, it's the sensation of the brain adapting.
Okay, so once you establish that internal mechanism where discipline overrides your mood, the manifesto shifts its focus outward. It forces a radical reevaluation of how you interact with the rest of the world, specifically regarding external validation.
Right, the social aspect.
Yeah, it draws a stark contrast, stating, boys want to be liked, men are focused on becoming.
It demands an end to the pursuit of external approval. But, as you noted when we reviewed the source material, there appears to be a contradiction here.
Yeah, here's where it gets really interesting. Because there is a massive paradox staring us right in the face. Early on in the text, it explicitly acknowledges that part of your underlying desire is a want for respect. It validates the pursuit of respect, money, and strength.
True.
But then it fiercely insists that you shouldn't need validation from anyone. How do you simultaneously desire respect but completely reject the need for approval? Those seem mutually exclusive to me.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the resolution to that paradox lies in curating your sphere of influence. The text includes a crucial caveat. It says you don't need validation from people who aren't living the life you want.
Okay.
Needing approval generally means twisting your behavior to please the lowest common denominator of your immediate social circle. It means seeking applause from the crowd just to feel accepted. Respect, however, is not requested. It is commanded by undeniable, objective results.
So it's less about becoming some antisocial hermit who hates everyone, and more about conducting a ruthless audit of whose opinions you actually allow to govern your behavior. You just stop caring if the people who are voluntarily stuck in their own comfort zones like you.
Precisely. Which leads to the manifesto's directive to move in silence. It instructs you to build in private and to let your results speak for you, rather than broadcasting your intentions to the world.
And that specific instruction to move in silence runs entirely counter to how we operate today. I mean, we live in an era of constant broadcasting.
We really do.
You go for a 3-mile run, you immediately post the GPS map online. You start reading a difficult book, you post an aesthetic photo of the cover. We constantly leak our energy into the void of public opinion. And from what I understand about the psychology of goal setting, there is a phenomenon called social reality that makes this broadcasting actively destructive.
The social reality effect is fascinating. When you tell people about a goal you plan to achieve and they congratulate you for it, your brain releases a premature spike of dopamine.
Just for talking about it.
Yes. It physically processes that social acknowledgement as if you have already completed the hard work.
It tricks your brain into feeling the satisfaction of the finish line while you are still standing at the starting block. So your drive to actually do the grueling work completely evaporates because you already got the neurochemical reward.
That is the insidious nature of broadcasting. It burns your finite resources on the illusion of progress. And the single most critical resource this manifesto targets is your time.
Right.
Having stripped away the need to perform for others, the text forces you to confront the ticking clock. It serves as a grim reminder that every wasted day is a piece of your future permanently deleted.
It frames time as the ultimate non-renewable asset. Like, every hour you spend doom scrolling, arguing with strangers on the internet, or consuming media that gives you nothing back is an hour you actively stole from the person you were trying to become.
Stolen time.
Exactly. The directive is to shift entirely to activities that yield compound interest. Training your body, building a profitable skill, studying.
And the mechanism of compound interest applies just as rigorously to human neuroplasticity as it does to finance. Daily micro-investments in a difficult skill don't just add up linearly. They fundamentally rewire the neural pathways of your brain.
Right, making it easier over time.
Over time, the effort required to execute the disciplined action actually decreases, while the output capacity increases exponentially. But to reach that point of compounding returns, you have to survive the initial investment phase.
Which brings us to the ultimate, most intense requirement of this entire blueprint. The manifesto demands that you actively embrace pain. It says not because you like it, but because you understand it.
Yes.
And this isn't a call for aimless masochism or self-harm. It is a philosophical recognition that pain is the master teacher.
We see this principle clearly in biological adaptation. I mean, think about muscle hypertrophy, the growth of muscle tissue. It only occurs when the muscle fibers are subjected to microtears from lifting loads heavier than they are accustomed to.
It literally requires damage.
It requires physical stress and invariably pain. The body responds to that specific trauma by building thicker, stronger fibers to ensure it doesn't fail the next time it encounters that load.
The manifesto is taking that biological truth and applying it to human character. Without the stressor, without the psychological friction, there is no biological imperative to adapt. Every struggle, every failure, every moment you force yourself to keep going when your brain is screaming at you to stop is a micro tear to your current identity. It is actively forging you into someone harder.
And this is where the text does something incredibly meta. Having laid out this entire diagnostic and prescriptive journey from rejecting comfort to embracing pain, the author anticipates the exact trap of the self-improvement genre. It issues a direct warning about the very act of consuming this material.
So what does this all mean? Like, for you listening right now, I have to laugh a little bit because there is a profound irony in the very existence of this deep dive.
There really is.
The text literally calls out the behavior of passively consuming motivational content. It says, you can listen to this and feel motivated for a few minutes. Then go back to your old habits.
He's calling out the listener.
Directly. It is telling you that the feeling you have right now, listening to us intellectually dissect this philosophy, is completely meaningless unless it translates into immediate, uncomfortable action the second this audio stops.
It strips away the illusion that planning to be disciplined in the future is a form of progress. We often tell ourselves, oh, I'll start my new routine on Monday, or I'll wake up early tomorrow.
Always tomorrow.
Always. But the text demands an end to that negotiation. It insists on the imperative of now. Planning to do something hard tomorrow is usually just a highly sophisticated, rationalized way of avoiding doing it today.
It is the ultimate procrastination dressed up in a suit of productivity. The manifesto says, no, you decide right now that you are done being average. You do the hard thing today. And the strategy for this transformation isn't about leaping up a mountain in a single heroic bound.
No, it's not glamorous at all.
Not at all. The text reveals that you don't become dangerous in one day. You become dangerous by winning the microscopic battles every single day.
It is the relentless accumulation of small, disciplined choices that reshape your identity. Choosing the alarm clock over the snooze button. Choosing the difficult conversation over the comfortable silence.
Okay, but this raises an important question, though. We've looked at this entire exhausting journey. We started by diagnosing the silent, creeping crap of modern comfort and easy dopamine. We discarded the flimsy emotional crutch of motivation, trading it in for the exposure therapy of iron discipline.
Right.
We learned to reject external approval, protect our finite time, and embrace pain to force biological and psychological adaptation. But what is the actual end goal? Where does this relentless daily grinding lead?
This raises an important question. And the manifesto closes with a sweeping, almost staggering promise regarding that end goal. It claims that if you stay consistent, if you decouple your actions from your emotions, and if you absolutely refuse to quit, one day you will look in the mirror and you will completely fail to recognize the person staring back at you.
The promise isn't that you'll be a slightly optimized version of your current self. The promise is total metamorphosis, like the complete death of the comfortable, stagnant identity and the birth of someone entirely new.
It is the ultimate culmination of the process. You don't just change your habits, you permanently alter your baseline reality. However, looking at the mechanics of this transformation leaves us with a fascinating philosophical paradox to consider as we wrap up.
I love a good paradox to end on. Lay it on us.
So the text is adamant that comfort is killing the man you could become. It promises that through relentless discipline and embracing pain, you will become this totally unrecognizable, highly disciplined, dangerous version of yourself. But let's extrapolate that out.
Okay, let's play it out.
If you actually achieve that ultimate level of ironclad discipline, where waking up at 4 a.m., working out intensely, and tackling immense psychological friction becomes your automatic default, doesn't that extreme reality eventually just become your new comfort zone?
Oh, wow. Because of the biological adaptation we talked about, you adapt to the pain, and eventually the pain itself becomes comfortable.
Exactly. Your brain stops sounding the alarm. Which begs the question, does this cycle of seeking discomfort have to continue forever?
That's a scary thought.
Do you have to keep inventing new, artificially harder, infinitely more painful things to do just to avoid feeling comfortable in your new identity? Or is there a point where the transformation is complete and the so-called dangerous man is finally allowed to sit down and rest in the house he built?
That is a phenomenal thought to chew on. Is the finish line a myth, or is the constant running the entire point of the exercise? We will leave you, the listener, to ponder that paradox as you go about your day. Remember our opening metaphor. If your life feels like a car engine that's stalled out, but there's no check engine light blinking at you, well, maybe it's time to stop looking for a broken mechanical part to blame.
Right.
Maybe it's time to accept that you've just been parked in the garage, perfectly comfortable, refusing to turn the key because you're afraid of the friction on the road outside. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Now, take the headphones off, step out of the garage, and go do whatever your hard thing is today.